You're now listening to Dark Matter with Michael Parker, right here on KarmaAir.com.
Greetings, truth seekers, paradigm busters, new world order, civil disobedience, freedom fighters, free thinkers, higher mammals, sentient beings, good people of all types. How's it going? My name is Michael Parker. This is Dark Matter, and tonight we have Rosemary Ellen Guiley on the show. Rosemary has written an astounding 31 books on the subject, well, actually all subjects having to do with the paranormal. She's been on numerous radio talk shows, television shows, been in the paranormal world as it is for 25 years writing books. And tonight we're going to kind of take a little look into the overall picture of the paranormal, because on the show we spend a lot of time talking about extraterrestrials, and recently we've been talking about things more on the spiritual realm. But we've also mentioned many times in the past that all of this may not be exactly as we first think it appears. And we're talking about non-corporeal entities. We're talking about things that appear in the 3D and things that appear out of the ether, and what all of this means. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome to the show Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Rosemary, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm astounded by the amount of work that you've done. 31 books?
31 and counting, and I love my work. I'm very passionate about understanding the paranormal, the mystical, the spiritual, how all of these things relate back to us and our expansion of consciousness. I'm so glad that you're addressing the multiverse and multidimensional reality. Well,
I appreciate that. That was really when I started reading about you, I mean, that was the thing that popped out at me immediately. And there's even some statements that you make within your bio, how we try to compartmentalize these things. Okay, the ghost is over here, the ET is over there, the vampire is there, the werewolf is over there. And all of these things, it's difficult for us to, I think, sometimes accept that this is all part of a larger web of something that we don't understand, but actually it makes more sense to me that way. And it's interesting, I had John Zaffis on, one of your friends, I believe, just this past Sunday, and he and I were discussing for a second how when he deals with exorcisms and demons, that some of the people that are within the church who have no problem talking about God, which is a supernatural thing, don't actually believe in demons or the other side. And it seems to me like you kind of have to take all of this or none of it.
I agree entirely. And in fact, when I started researching the paranormal, I had far more definitive ideas about what's out there than I do now, even though I've learned a lot more and I've experienced a lot more. But the deeper you go, the blurrier it gets. And I've also found that you can't cherry pick the paranormal. So my own boggle point has gotten further and further out there. Not that I try to be credulous, but you can't believe in angels, for example, and not believe in demons. We live in our slice of the multiverse is one of polarity. We have light, dark, good, evil, masculine, feminine, and you can't start eliminating things just because it's inconvenient according to your worldview and personal beliefs, even religious beliefs.
Well said.
Going into the paranormal requires us to be very, very open-minded. So I'm willing to look at all kinds of experiences and not reject them just out of hand. It gets very tricky sometimes because when you're dealing in this blurry, liminal area, how do you know what's reality and what isn't, and even what is the definition of reality?
Well, we have a lot of questions for you from our listeners. We're going to probably wait till the second half of the show to address some of those. Jerry, our producer who's here with us tonight, is going to be reading some of those questions. But I guess to kick it off, for some of our listeners, I want them to know who you are. How did you get involved in your research with the paranormal? What was it that inspired you to know that this was the work that you wanted to do?
Like a lot of people, I came into this through childhood experiences with the paranormal. I think children are more naturally psychically open anyway, and almost all of us have some sort of unusual experiences, an apparition, fairies, that sort of thing. And I grew up in a family with psychic ability. My mom was very psychic, had a lot of precognitive dreams and some visitations that were both pleasant and unpleasant. And I certainly had some childhood experiences. I didn't really see dead people per se. I wasn't like the kid in the movie. But I had invisible playmates. in retrospect, looking back on those, I think that they were probably fairies. I think that children experience what we call fairies in the invisible playmate, and we had a backyard that bled into some woods, and I think there were a lot of fairies and nature and elemental presences very close to the house. I had angel experiences when I was little, and to me it was quite natural. I really didn't think that it was anything special. I think children think that their experiences are like everybody's experiences. So it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized that not everybody has those kinds of experiences or believes in them. So that was the beginning of my personal search. Why do these experiences vary so much? And also, I was very puzzled why there were people out there who would try to tell me that I didn't experience what I knew I did, right, because it didn't fit in their beliefs.
Well, let me ask you this. I know that you had spoken with my boss, Will, a little bit about fairies, and I have to admit, I don't know a great deal about fairies, and so I have two questions, I guess. Number one was these invisible playmates that you saw as a child. Were you actually seeing them, or did you feel them? And B, what exactly really are fairies?
I believe that fairies are beings in their own right. They have their own slice of the multiverse, and they are much more closely associated with the natural world than we are. In fairy lore, they live in the woods, they live in mounds inside of the earth, they have abilities that we don't have. They can make themselves invisible, they can bend time, they have supernatural, psychic, and magical powers. And they take all kinds of sizes and shapes. They're frequently described as little people, the gentry, the wee folk. But they also can manifest as balls of light, pillars of light, even rather sizable beings, much like angels might impress people. I have seen them as lights. I have seen them as kind of little dwarf-like beings that would be straight out of the Seven Dwarfs. I've seen beings that look like they were literally made out of vegetation, out of leaves and twigs and bark. So they cover quite a range.
When you say balls of light, one of the things that popped into my mind immediately, and you've probably seen this footage. Have you ever seen the crop circle footage where there's these balls of light that appear over this one particular field in England, and then a crop circle appears?
I think I've seen that one. It's like one or two moving balls of light. In fact, there have been mysterious lights reported over the fields in England as well as elsewhere in the world for a long time, even before the crop circle phenomenon started. I spent a number of years researching crop circles. In fact, I even had a nonprofit organization called the Center for North American Crop Circle Studies. I was intensely interested in crop circles, spent a lot of time in them, flew over them, even went out and made them myself.
Right.
to understand the phenomenon.
Not to